Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Trade the Chain. It is January 11th, and it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're coming to you to talk BTC, obviously, today and what's been transpiring. First, I'm going to go to my co-host, Ryan, who's with me, along with the two Market Rebellion analysts with us, CJ and Monty. You know their pretty faces. So, Ryan, take it away, sir.
Sure. This is just a reminder that all information and content provided by Trade the Chain is for informational and educational purposes only. This is not investment advice and should not be construed as such. Trade the Chain is brought to you by Trade the Chain, a 24/7 community of crypto traders around the world in now 18 different time zones, sharing ideas, sharing wins, and taking advantage of a dashboard of social media sentiment, signals scraped from 3,000 sources around the web, and all kinds of other information that makes you a more informed trader making better decisions with your allocations. TradeTheChain.com for a 14-day trial.
And Market Rebellion Crypto. If you haven't heard of us already, please go check it out. We are a community of beginner to advanced traders all throughout the world. We just had a member join us yesterday from Austria. So all around the globe, beginner and elite traders. What Monty and I do for you guys is provide you with trade insights on a weekly basis, as well as some of our macro views. And we have a portfolio that you can check out. We change those allocations around every few weeks. And we let the community know with education, webinars, and of course, trade ideas. So if you'd like to check us out, you can subscribe for the first month for just $1 for your trial. And if you want to do that, it's marketrebellion.com/crypto. And a little bit about our interface right here. Comes with a mobile app as well as a desktop platform and chat. But let's get into Bitcoin and what we've got on the big boards, huh? Because
let's talk about BTC. Let's talk about why it fell 25% while we were all sleeping. Sharp sell-off. A lot of people threatening the correction over the last couple of weeks with our parabolic run-up. CJ, what do the charts tell us?
Well, one of the first warning signals before price even broke was the fact that this was a sequential 9. While it did occur in a setup recycle period, many traders were still looking at this 9 on variations of other kinds of the sequential indicator. And once we first broke below the stage 4 trend line, that showed me that the trend was very weak at about 37K. So in our community, I had a couple conditions that needed to be met in order for me to believe that the interim top was in at roughly 40K. The first was a break and a close below this upward sloping trend line, and the others were bearish divergences on both the RSI and the MACD. All of those conditions were satisfied at around 36 to 35K, and we broke so sharply that, I typically like to use this as a stop loss and just an indication that, if we get to 35K this quickly, I probably want to take profit if I'm in a long trade, or at least, not looking to enter a long on this type of dip. Now, the question that everybody is looking to answer, how far can we go down in the interim? And when are we going to buy Bitcoin? Is it a good level to pick up some? Well, I want to go back historically and just, I've done this a couple different times on a few other streams, but I've been referring to the fact that I think we're in a very similar time as, the spring of 2017 here. And each time, we correct about, in this case, we corrected 38%. So if we go and extrapolate that to our current time, we can see that we've got a couple support levels and we just have started our correction on the weekly chart. So I'm expecting 3 more weeks of kind of bearish to neutral consolidation. I'm going to be looking to pick up Bitcoin at around 29K as well as 26K, and maybe all the way down on these various support levels. Now, I say that in theory, but in practice, I am out of fiat. I am out of dry powder, so to speak. So I will not be buying this dip. But to you, to those who are, best of luck.
Well, payday is on Friday, CJ. So maybe then, maybe it'll dip a little bit more by Friday, and we can stack.
CJ, you mentioned on the last episode that we did just before the weekend that the drop was imminent, right? And you mentioned that that it would be maybe 3-4 weeks. We'd grind it out over time. And there's an interesting article that came out over the weekend before we really nosedived. Donna Hayrick at Bloomberg was talking about how weekends have much higher volatility because trading volumes are thinner. It's almost like she was like a crystal ball, like predicting that this would happen right before it happened. I don't know if you got a chance to see that article, but she pretty much described the exact conditions that happen each weekend that lead to these volatile price swings. And this one just did not work out in Bitcoin's favor at all. Do you think we'll have another repeat of this over the coming weekend, or do you think that it could potentially swing in the opposite direction as support fills in, hopefully before the 20K mark?
Yeah, I don't think the volatility will be as extreme next weekend, just because of the kind of technicals starting to level out a little bit. CJ talked a lot last week about the historical levels that the RSI was reaching. And I mean, those were, like he said, they were historically overbought. And I think now the market's going to correct a little bit. Like CJ said, we're in for a few weeks of correction, but I think the most extreme levels of volatility were probably this weekend. Because like you said, the volume was thin. The technicals were extremely overbought on every time frame possible. And even if you took a look at the macro models like stock to flow, we're getting ahead of the projections of the current models. So a pullback was seeming imminent, and that in combination with what you mentioned of the thin order books on the weekends was kind of just a disaster waiting to happen for Bitcoin.
And if I could just add one more thing to that, I always try to think about, who's in the market, how would I feel if I bought at 42K? And we've heard from people, various individuals who bought at, 40, 42K. So I could imagine those individuals who got in probably close to capitulation and will likely capitulate if we drop below 30K. And that's why I think we might even test 26. But I feel like there was a lot of easy money that kind of came into the market. So I'm actually relieved to see this sell off. What it means to me is that hopefully we can kind of consolidate here, find a floor, form support in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then hopefully break into the 50K new high territory.
Yeah, and that 52K high territory by the end of the month seems to be pretty popular opinion going around. One of the things I want to note is, and I take this, I was looking to see how many positions were being liquidated, and I did find it from Larry Cermak, who does research over at The Block, and I actually admire Larry's work. I think he does good stuff and he's usually spot on. But he goes on to say there's now more than $3 billion worth of positions liquidated in the last 24 hours. And that is more than likely the second largest liquidation day since March, when everything crapped the bed. So, I mean, here we are playing with fire once again. As the volatility goes up and the price of Bitcoin goes up, also the swings do too. So people, really need to start getting used to at this level, $500 candle swings on some points.
And I also think Ryan made a good point with the low volumes on weekends. I mean, historically, we've seen crazy price action. And when you combine that with the fact that we're seeing a shortage of Bitcoin on spot exchanges because large entities like various corporations and institutions are putting those Bitcoins in cold storage. So that leads to volatile swings as well.
And not only that, but most of the institutions are going into GBTC, right? And so they're playing the spread basis game as well. And that's one of the reasons why you see headlines as, Grayscale is buying up, more Bitcoin than's actually mined and all this stuff, because those type of places are getting a lot of flow. Now, how much is on the lit markets, how much is on the OTC markets, what affects what, who knows where the selling pressure is going.
Also, another observation that's been made on this sell-off is that miners are selling off holdings en masse. Can you tell a little bit about what that means, why they would do that, and what that means for the market?
Yeah, that's always an important factor during sell-offs is the rate at which miners capitulate. And it kind of ties in with what CJ was talking about with the retail capitulation of Bitcoin and like these new retail holders getting in that are more fickle than the institutions. And the miners, now more than ever, it's increasingly difficult for them to be profitable. So if there is any hint at the market's overbought, the miners are likely going to drive price down and then make their mining more affordable for a longer period of time. So they're shaking out less profitable mining companies while they drive the market down as well. So it really is a win-win for miners when they are able to capitulate the market like this. Obviously, price goes down in the interim, but it does, like I said, it weeds out the competition and allows them to be more profitable in the long term.
Yeah, and
Another thing,
a couple
sorry,
things.
Alex, if I just may add to this, is that Willie Wu, one of the foremost expert analysts in miner capitulation and difficulty on the Bitcoin network, has made the claim that in this bull market, since we're kind of seeing a shift, the miners historically have been the majority proponents who have sold Bitcoin. But now we're seeing a shift, and it's no longer the miners, it's the exchanges who are becoming the largest sellers of Bitcoin because of their exchange fees. That's a shift that we're going to see. So metrics like the Bitcoin difficulty ribbon and miner capitulation are going to be less relevant as we move into the future and have additional block halvings. Doesn't mean it's not important to look at today. I just think it's important to have that understanding.
Yeah, and by the way, those indexes are like two of my favorite. They're the most interesting ones to take a look at against what the market's doing at any given time. And another thing folks have to understand that miners do sell their Bitcoin. They're also the biggest loan takers and some of the biggest sellers of Bitcoin. And that's due to the reason that they actually require fiat to run their operation. So when they go to do things like compress price, like CJ was mentioning, make things affordable, they need to sell this Bitcoin or take massive loans in fiat in order to find. That's how their business model works. So I mean, really short term, are we looking for anything unexpected, or is it basically, hey, listen, we could hit, go down to 26 support if need be, but the end game is people are looking for that 52,000 mark at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a slow crawl down because of the price prediction that you just mentioned. And then that in kind of conjunction with the fact that we still are largely overbought on many time frames. I think price is going to slowly crawl down. I think, like we talked about earlier, the largest downswing has already happened. It was just this weekend. So I think going forward, like we've already found a little bit of support at 30K. It kind of bounced back up to 33K a little bit, and it looks like it's headed back down. So I think that's going to continue to happen over the next few weeks, and we're going to climb down and test some of the lower levels of support that CJ pointed out earlier.
I agree. It's definitely going to be a slower grind. Everybody's so used to making money and feeling euphoria that it's going to take some time to let that kind of cool off in the market. But something that I think is worth noting, and Alex, following up on your alt picks, VGX being your number one altcoin pick, one thing that I really like to see is when a particular market sells off hard and there's an asset that kind of remains neutral or only sells off a little bit, those are typically the strongest when the market goes neutral bullish because they end up rallying. And the thing that's very interesting with VGX, I was expecting us to possibly go down to 25 cents. We may still, but the interesting thing is that compared to the BTC pair, we're still very bullish. And Asian traders who are trading this chart are continuing the bullish setup phase going into these next 3 days. So something very promising on VGX that I thought I'd share before we go back into bullish neutral territory.
But if we hit a new high with VGX, or if we start rising up again, every time VGX goes up, it sharply goes down, right? It's so volatile. Do you think that there's going to be a point where we're able to establish a price floor, like a higher high and then a higher low, like we've seen with other digital assets that start building momentum and grinding higher because adoption is rising.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I would say that, we've had Bitcoin modeled on the hyperwave, which was pretty good indication where you can, have an idea where the trend's going to go. But the last, 80% increase in VGX, you can't model that with a hyperwave. That was like a company going public almost. That was the space realizing the potential that Voyager had. So yeah, I am looking for that higher low. We'll still see if it gets put in, but as of now, it looks like we're holding above 40 cents pretty strongly. So we'd have to see.
Well, good stuff. I mean, and just a real quick thing before we head out, I just want to let everybody know, because we've been getting a ton of questions about this. VGX actually has two different tickers. So it's VGX on majority of exchanges. On Binance, it's BQX, and it's traded against the BTC pair. So just an FYI, so people don't have to keep hitting me up for that. But other than that, guys, thank you very much, Matt. CJ, marketrebellion.com, a crypto analyst. My best hair in crypto co-host, Ryan, keeps that smile going. Hang on your handlebars, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the week. And when we come back on the air, I just want to let you know we're gonna start this week's $50 Bitcoin giveaway on our next episode. So hang tight. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, everyone.